Hey everyone, today I'll be going through the Working with Corridors Trimble Business Center exercise or assignment. So first things first, we're going to download the file from Canvas. We're going to extract the zip file. That should give you a folder called Working with Corridors with two files in it. It should be the PDF, which is the walkthrough, and the VCE. So we're going to go ahead and open the VCE. And VCE should open up and look something like this. So you'll see in here under the Project Explorer, we have surface, an alignment, a whole bunch of points, and some job files, and a DXF. So with that, I'm going to simply, under step one, we're going to do a save as, and I'm going to rename this Aaron C 2024. That way I've got a unique project name, and that way when you submit this back to me, I'll be able to identify who did it, so we can get the proper grading done. All right, so step two is going to be pretty simple. All we're going to do is just double check some settings here. So I'm going to go ahead and come up. It's this little gear icon right here, which is our project settings. And under units tab, we're going to go check our vertical angles because we do want to make sure we're getting the slope ratios that are set to the right amount of units. This one, they want us to use rise to run, which is correct. So we're not going to need to do anything here since we didn't make any changes. Just wanted to double check that those numbers are correct. Click cancel and go back to your settings and then move on to step three. All right, moving on to step three, we're going to kind of clean up what we're looking at here. So you got a lot of busy stuff, all these little blue lines, those are the RTK vectors. Remember, RTK vectors comes from where your base station happened to be, or if you're pulling from a core station, where your core stations would happen to be. So in this case, this looks like this is local base. So all I want to do under View Filter Manager is select on that tab, and we can turn our RTK vectors off. Hey, now this looks a little bit less noisy. And then the last piece would be to shut off points, because that will clean the look of this up quite a little bit. So now you can see we've got surface, and we have a horizontal alignment. All right, moving on to step four, we're going to create the template node names. So what the heck is a template node? So at the end of the day, what we're doing here is we're creating a corridor. Corridors are always based off of alignments and typical cross sections. So these node names are referencing the template that we're going to be using to kind of project along the alignment. So to be able to do that, again, back at the top bar here, we're going to go to our corridors tab. And then we are going to go to manage nodes here. And you'll notice I can create new. And so now I've got this new code here. This is the kind of the default. So we're going to edit this and we're going to call it catch point. And then we're going to click OK. Or sorry, close. And that should be it for step four. All right, we are now on step 5 of the assignment. So this is the spot where we're going to create material layers. Why do we want material layers again? Well, we want to be able to quantify what we're doing out on the job. So if this is earthwork, we want earthwork quantities. If it is subgrade or asphalt, we want to be able to quantify the subgrade and the asphalt quantities. So to be able to do that, we need to create material layers. So that part is pretty simple. The default is always going to be this finish, but in this case we want to specify something or else, so maybe base course or stabilized subgrade or subgrade. So we can do that pretty simple. We're going to go up to the corridors tab and we're going to go to manage materials. So you'll see that's the next one that pops up. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is, it looks like by default we always have a finish. That's okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is create a new layer here. I'm going to call this layer subgrade. And then I just need to click close. And that completes step 5. All right, next step is step 6. So this is where we're going to actually go ahead and create the corridor. So up in the ribbon here, I'm going to click the Create Corridor button. First thing it's going to ask me to do is name this. So we're going to call this Road 01. You'll notice, yeah, we're going to let it ignore that for now. It automatically found that center line because there's only one center line alignment in here. If there were more, that would have shown up here under the alignment. So again, to be able to create a corridor, you have to have an alignment. So if we didn't have that, a step before this would have been to create an alignment. But in this case, we have one. So that center line alignment is already defined. So we don't have to select it. And the next step is to select any reference lines that we want to be able to reference. So next step here is I'm going to go ahead and click that plus button. And we want to select this aqua polyline here. You can see I've selected that. I now select add. And then click close. And now you can see that that is now, reference line is now showing. And then I click OK. Now the next step is going to brings us to the Insert Corridor Template stage. So in this case, we're going to be moving on to the next step, which would be step 7. Okay, just to wrap up again, I'm going to walk you through again that last step on step 6 and then continue on to step 7. So again, create the corridor, road 01. Again, this is critical actually to make sure that you check this box, because if you don't check this box, you will not have surface information for the corridor to be able to reference as far as catch points. So make sure that box is checked. Again, we're going to add that reference line there. Click add. Click close. Okay. And we're done. And now on the Insert Corridor template, now I just select Station B and Station 0. Template name, we're going to call this template 01. Insert, and this will take a second to run, and then you'll notice, okay, we're ready to continue with the corridor template. Okay, the last piece we want to check is to go ahead and verify what actually did occur here. So we can check over here. So now we do have that road surface finish that's created as part of the corridor and the beginning of that corridor template. So that all looks correct. Okay, moving on to step 8, we are going to actually create the corridor template now, or define the template. So here we're still in this edit corridor template. For whatever reason you don't have that, you could go back into here over the right and go to the edit key, and that'll give you the same information. It'll bring you to this same edit corridor template tab. So the first thing we're going to do is we are now going to create these new nodes. So on this offset button, you'll see we can do an offset. And we can create 12. Enter. And then slope, we are going to actually do a slope table. And this is going to allow us to have a variety of different numbers that are going to go in here on the slope table. Okay, we are going to continue editing this this corridor here. So again, based off that last step, we were going to do a 12-foot offset, and we are going to do a slope table. Then we're going to click those little 3 dots there, and we're going to go ahead and enter in our stations. So there is a table that we're going to be entering. And we're just going to copy these numbers. So that was first one was 0 plus 0, 0, negative 2%. 0 plus 50 is going to be a negative 2%. Station 75 It's going to be bumped up to -4%. Station 132, so that's 1 plus 32, or 132 feet. That's going to go -4%. Then back at station 150, we're going to go -2. Then at station 4 plus 33, we are going to bump that to -2 again. That's 5 plus 17. Going to give that a... Oops, I missed one. Sorry. 4 plus 53. That gives us -4. And again, we can just continue to add here. 5 plus 17. -4. And the last one on the table is going to be 5 plus 36. And that's going to be -2. And we select OK. Okay, next step here is to go ahead, after we've entered that slope table, is to go ahead and name this. Travel lane. Make sure under material type that we have finish selected here. And then we are just going to click add. And now you'll notice here it had started to create part of that corridor here. So that is what that is now representing along that part of the template. So you'll notice as I scroll along here that template changed based off of those numbers. Remember how we went from -2 to -4? That's what you see in those numbers as I'm scrolling along this template here. All right, now that we've done that main piece, now we're going to go ahead and add the shoulders. So back here into this edit corridor thing, so you can see we've successfully created that traveled way. Now we're going to go ahead and create a shoulder. So under offset, so we're going to have previous node, and we're going to create a new offset of 6. And rather than doing a table, we're just going to do slope percent. And this one is all going to be at -4. And we're going to go ahead and name this shoulder. And again, the material is finished here. I'm going to go ahead and click add. And you'll notice a whole new entry came in here. And as we now scroll along that portion of the template, we now have the travelway and the shoulder. It has been created. So now we're going to define the right drainage slope. So now coming back here again, so I can create another offset. We're going to have an offset of 5, and slope here is going to be -20. And here we can name this ditch. We can click add. Notice now you're starting to see a little bit more of this as we run along here. Same thing, I can kind of scroll through and see how this is starting to look. Okay, so next step we're going to do here is we are going to now define the center line and the subgrade layer. So we've done that top surface. Now we want to do what's underneath to create that three-dimensional shape there. So in this case, we're going to do offset elevation. We are going to offset from the center line. So we're not going to do a horizontal offset, but we are going to do a vertical offset. So that elevation is going to come down -0.5 feet. And we're going to call this center line of sub or subgrade. Whatever you want to call it is fine. And we're going to click add, and you'll notice we have a new node point that's been created here. So that now is referencing our center line, but it is now a vertical offset from it. Okay, now we're going to continue by actually creating an offset from the next node. So we've created that center line negative offset. Now we want to offset the traveled lane. So under here, we're going to click traveled lane. Same thing, we're not going to do a horizontal offset, but we are going to do a vertical offset of negative 0.5. We're going to call this now travel lane subgrade, and click add. Now you've noticed it has now created a whole nother offset node there. All right, so now we're going to offset that node 4, which is that shoulder node. Same thing, 0 offset, negative 0.5 foot elevation. So this is shoulder subgrade, add, and now we have that shoulder node. All right, so now that we've created these nodes, now we need to connect them. So under the instruction type, now we need to do connect. We need to connect number 7 to number 8. Add. Cool. See, now we've actually, see how we can zoom in here and create that. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to do another connect. I'm going to connect number 8 to number 9. Add. Boom. Okay, the next step that we want to do is actually go ahead and mirror this. So we've created one side of the template. Now we're going to come up here and we're going to use the mirror command. And just by selecting that, now it has mirrored everything based off of the center line. And now you can see we have all the additional instructions that have been given here. And as I scroll out and I kind of look along that corridor template, that is all looking pretty nice. Okay, next step we're going to do is going to be edit an instruction. So under the Project Explorer tab, we're going to come down, get in here to the template, and we're going to select that template that we have. We're going to right click that, and we're going to click edit. So under edit, that just brought up that section. We're going to come down here to instruction 10. And then this is where we are going to go into properties. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to do kind of an interesting edit here. So back getting into that corridor template again. We are going to edit offset slope 1 to center line. In this case, we are going to get a little creative here. And you'll notice the original right now was set to negative 12 feet. In this case, instead of having a standard offset, we're going to actually select the polyline here. So I'm going to select this. And here I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to click on 0.2. Now I just selected, so again, I was at that station 0 plus 0, and I selected that teal colored point there. And then I go ahead and click save. And now you'll see that just basically widened that slope out to accommodate kind of a wider area along one side that was defined by that polyline. All right, now we're pretty much done editing the corridor there. So the last piece that we want to do is we can close that menu and actually go back up to your project settings tab. And we want to kind of come down here and check on under computations, corridor. So this is sampling distance. So this is kind of what defines. So again, remember your corridors is it's a typical cross section that's cut along a certain amount of distance. If we want to shorten that up and make our curves much smoother, all we're going to want to do is we're going to want to tighten that up. So effectively, I would come in here and I could change this if I really wanted this to look different. So if I wanted the maximum sampling distance to be 1 foot, for an example, I would click OK. And you'll notice if you look under here, oh boy, that made a whole bunch of difference in there, didn't it? Changed how that template actually looks. But in this case, I can change that right back. So instead of 1 foot, as far as the surface line works, so I could change that back to 16.404. Click OK. And so in this case, the default is probably OK, according to the tutorial. Okay, so very last step now is we have created our corridor. Now what do we do with it? Well, at the end of the day, what we want this to do is we want this to go back out to the field on our data collector so we can go out and we can stake this new roadway. So how we do that is we go back to the Home tab, and we're going to go to Export, and this will bring up the Export tab. Now, if you come under here under Corridor, you'll see under the Corridor tab, you'll see we can export out this RXL road. So this is the corridor alignment and the template. So you can see kind of the defaults that are set here under the station intervals. Yeah, that all looks okay right now, I believe. File version 6.4 is fine. Corridor interval. So under horizontal alignment station interval, we'll set that as 1. And then we'll go ahead and click export. And now you will notice here under wherever you saved your project to, under the exports or under the files tab, you will have an export that represents that RXL that can be copied and pasted directly back into Trimble Access and can be viewed and staked. And that is the end of the tutorial.